Hello there and welcome. Welcome to you, fellow cosmic travelers and seekers on the higher spiritual psychic path. It's Psychic Cynthia here, spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian. And today I want to share with you just a tidbit about some of my tips for cosmic planning, for planning by the stars, the cosmos, and to be more specific, planning by the moon and the lunar energy cycles. And this is a response video. Actually, I've recently been asked by about 30 clients, actually, a few, to share more about my knowledge, about how, in my practice, about how you can plan and basically strategize your life for better ease by the movements of the cosmos. For non-astrologers, or maybe astrologers light, okay, for non-professional astrologers, right? And maybe you know this about me, or maybe you don't, but we're all into the cosmicness here, right, on this channel and in this psychic tribe. So we know about the powers of the energies of the heavenly bodies and the movements. We know about the powers of the vibes, right? I hope that's why you're here. And so I'm into that, and you're into that too, probably, or you wouldn't be watching this video. But one of the things I'm really into is planning. And maybe that's what drew me to astrology. I mean, that and the dimension of astrology where we learn to understand our spiritual selves, our destinies, our spiritual callings, that is maybe the greatest love for me. But right up there with that is utilizing astrology for personal planning in love, romance, business, finances, decision making. And this idea that life goes better when we harmonize ourselves with the cosmic cycles. So how do you do that? And I'm hoping to offer a series of classes on that to answer the requests that I've had, but that's no small feat, okay? Because explaining these cosmic astrological cycles to people who are not professional astrologers, it's not easy, okay? So I always say we have to translate astrologies into English or whatever the other languages you speak. So anyway, where do you start? I'm into this, and you might be interested into, you might want to harmonize your planning. I mean, are you a planner? And if so, then you need to think about maybe how you can work your planning along with the cycles. And there's a lot of ways to do this, okay? I mean, what are some ways that you can utilize the cosmic cycles for planning? Well, obviously, you can pay attention to the movement of the sun through the signs. And I'd like to do a whole course on that. That's basically, relating to the seasons. That's another way to do it. You could just look at the seasonal shifts with the sun that are marked by the 4 cardinal signs. And that's a good tool. You could look at significant transits through the with the larger, or slower moving planets. And that's useful, but that's a little bit slower sometimes and spread out, so that might not help you to do your months ahead, okay? And that can take place over, 3 years or longer sometimes, often a year to a year and a half at least. And of course, you can follow the retrogrades. And that is very useful. But, that takes some learning and skill building in astrology to really do that. And it may not be the best place for everybody to start. If you follow some of my other work or some of the other, really good astrologers, you might be ready to start with that, but it's not where I would start. It's not where I started, okay? So where do I think you should start with your astrological planning? Okay, other than following the movements of the sun is very important. It's the central star, right, in our, system, in our world here, okay? But even, along with that, let's say, I might even say before that, I would look to the moon. I mean, basically, the sun is this center of our system here, our solar system. And so everything revolves around that. So, you know, those cycles are important. You can see that with your eyes, right? You can feel that the light of the sun is important, right? Even if you didn't know the science behind it. And of course, there is science too. You know, we do have a scientific understanding to help back up our, you know, the idea that the sun is important. But beyond that, you can see it with your eyes and you can feel it and sense it intuitively. Your intuition tells you that, yes, the movements of the sun are important. You know, the visible light from the sun has a visible effect upon us here and the changes of it and its movement through the zodiac signs. But then there's also the moon. And even though the sun is larger and more radiant, and I would even say more central to our solar system, the moon plays a very important part, a very important role for those of us on Earth. And it's quite a bit closer to Earth than the sun. So that alone might, you know, give you a clue as to how important it is. It's very, very important. And following the movements of the moon will help you to understand the rise and fall. I would say the energetic tides, TIDE or TIDES. So the rise and fall of the energetic tides for life on Earth. And, you know, you want to think about the moon, you know, it's the fastest moving heavenly body in astrology. And sometimes we do call it a planet. That is just a shorthand. All astrologers that I've ever met know the moon is not a planet. It's a luminary. But sometimes we just kind of lump it all together for, you know, just to quickly speak about the heavenly bodies. But the moon moves very quickly. And, you know, the moon moves through all 12 signs of the zodiac in about 28 and a half, 29 days. Whereas the sun, to move through all signs of the zodiac, takes about, well, a year. Okay. A year. So, you know, the moon takes not even a full calendar month in most cases to go through all the signs. The sun takes a full calendar year. I want you to let that sink in. So having an awareness around the cycles of the moon can be very important to help you make plans. Now, depending on how deep you wanted to go with this, and it just depends person by person. I mean, you could go really deep with this and you could, you know, like I did many years ago, I practiced, well, I didn't practice, I actually did it. I went through a month or two where I would wake up with the moon rising and follow it through the signs and follow it, because I don't know if you know this, the moon rises at different times each night. It rises later, early on. It's the opposite of the sun. Okay, I don't want to confuse you here. But yeah, it's quite a bit different. Okay. It's not what you think. I mean, people think you can just go out and see the moon on every night. Yeah, you actually can't easily do that. I mean, you might be able to from the right vantage point on Earth or above Earth. It's very easy to see the moon, say, on the full moon. Okay. You know, it's very easy, but it's not so easy to see the full moon or the moon at the new moon. Okay. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. So you could go deep with this, and you could, you know, ideally you might want to, if you're into this, you might want to eventually get yourself a moon planner. And Llewellyns.com is a great resource. I don't get a kickback or anything. It's just they're a great publisher for periodicals and tools to help you follow the moon or basic astrology to actually become aware. They have a lot of good yearly annuals. You better buy them closer to the beginning of the year, though. They do run out for the year. Okay. And there's free websites. Just make sure the one you're using is accurate. Okay. But yes, you could ideally, you know, pay attention to the moon moving through the signs. And because the moon moves so quickly, okay, the sun takes about a month, although it's not a calendar month because it's split between the 2 months usually, but it takes about, give or take, you know, 30 days to go through a sign. But the moon, it depends on its rate of movement. It's pretty variable at times. But yeah, it's going to be about 48 hours, sometimes more. It's pretty quick. So learning about what the moon say in Aries, like the moon in Aries is a very speedy, very aggressive energy, get things done, versus when the moon is in Capricorn, which actually gets things done too, and is very practical, but is maybe more depth, slowing down and taking one's time. So, and more focused on the financial realms, let's say. So yes, the movement of the moon through the signs really has a huge effect on our moods. And if you wanted to research that more, I would just get one of those moon journals and then start paying attention. I would actually journal. This is what I did. Okay. I journaled about the moon through each sign. I watched it and made little notes, just little notes, little short journal entries about what I noticed in traffic or in the people around me, in the moods, because the moon is the mood. Let me say that again. The moon is the mood. Say that with me. The moon is the mood. Okay. I want you to sing it. Okay. I mean, maybe if you're not comfortable, if you're around other people and you don't want to sing out loud now, well, get over it. And when you get home alone later, sing that to yourself. The moon is the mood. Okay. That'll help you remember that the mood is at least influence. I don't know if it's determined by the moon. Maybe it's mirrored by the moon sign. But yes, not only by the sign, but by the way it's moving, the aspects. And, you can get more in depth with that as you go on this journey. But I don't know if that's where you need to start, okay? If you're new to this, and where would I start? And what's the fastest path to moon planning? Let's talk about that, okay? So the fastest path to planning by the moon, even before you understand all the signs, is simply to understand that the light, the visible light from the moon impacts the mood, the energy, and the activities here on Earth. Think about that for a minute. What I'm saying, the visible light from the moon, the percent of visible light from the moon is going to impact the energy levels here on Earth, the mood. It's going to impact you, and it's going to make a difference in terms of what activities are going to be more favored. It's going to be easier. Let's just use this simplicity here to help you understand. For example, when the moon is full, that is the time of the month, whenever that occurs, of maximum visibility. We see more of the moon from Earth. Now, maybe not if it's cloudy where you're at, I understand. But in theory, we are receiving maximum visibility of the moonlight. And understand, moonlight is sunlight. I don't know if you realize that. I mean, if you want to go deep into astrology, you need just at least a little astronomy. And the light that we see from the moon is reflected sunlight. And so just think of this and feel into this intuitively, that when the moon is full, the light, which is the central star in our universe, it's the solar light, the soul of our universe, you might say, the king, the queen, the animating force. Excuse me, it's the soul of our solar system, not the whole universe, but our world here. We see the sun. It's the center of our system, our setup. And that light is emanated upon the full moon at 100%, of the surface. And then we're receiving that reflected light. So that is very elevating on the mood. It is very energizing. It doesn't matter what sign it's in terms of the energy intensity here for the visible light. Now, obviously, certain signs carry more of an emotional, spiritual, psychic intensity than others. Well, more obvious, I should say. All signs are just rich in energy and power, and have their own beautiful frequency, and it's intense in its own way. But when the moon is full, the Earth is receiving that activation of reflected solar light. And that intensifies the mood, whatever the mood is in, which, that's where you want to look at the sign that the moon is in at the time and also the sign that the sun is in. A lot of people forget that, okay? If you're having full moon in Taurus, the sun is in Scorpio. And how do I know that? Well, here's some very simple astrology. At the time of the full moon, the sun and moon are in opposition, which means they'll be in opposite signs too. So you look at the whole polarity to understand the flavor of, maybe some themes that might be activating. But just in terms of your planning, the full moon is the time each month where the rhythm of life, biological life, natural life, has reached a culmination. And the visibility stays high for a few days after that. It's also high for a few days before. So there's a whole time period. I'm going to show you a graph in a minute where that momentum, that tempo of daily life has picked up. So that can be a good time to push through, to bring things to culmination, to, make that push on the project. It can also be a good time to host social occasions, to reach out. And I say could be because, there's other factors besides just the moon. Understand that. And there's also the issue of whether it's an eclipse or not. But we're not talking eclipses for these purposes here. We're just talking about the rise and fall of the visibility of light, the energy intensity. So light is at the highest when you're at the full moon. And that's where a lot of the action happens, where it really comes to a fruition. And, if you you want to have a busy weekend, or you want to get a lot of things done, for example, well, it might not be on the weekend, just depends. But if you, want to get things done, the new moon is a good time for doing that. And if you want to have that kind of busy, energetic vibration, the full moon is a time for that, okay? Because of the light, we're getting all this light from the moon at that time. And that is maximum light. Now, when is the lowest light? That would be the new moon each month. And around the time of the new moon, well, we say at the time of the new moon, it's really shortly thereafter, is a good time to plant seeds, right? To set your goals. But it's still more of a reflective time. At the time of the new moon, the illumination is about 0 in terms of visible light. So it's not about being out there. It's not about shining, okay? It's about working quietly in the background, especially in the time right before the new moon, where there might be some visibility, but it's very limited. Then, you really want to concentrate on resting. And historically, and traditionally, we'd call that the 4th quarter. But right now, I just want you to think about the light, the different levels of light throughout the month. And right before the new moon, it's very dark. So in the 4th quarter, we rest, we regroup. And then even once the new moon activates, there may be some gradual return to action. But we do that, if we're wise, in correspondence with the light. We gradually rebuild just like the light does. And then we take on our more intense activities closer to the full moon, and even after the first quarter. Okay. So basically, you have your new moon, you have your first quarter, you have your full moon, which is the 2nd quarter, and then you have 3rd quarter, and then you're back to new moon. Let me say that again. New moon, 0% illumination. First quarter, which is 50% illumination. Full moon, which is 100% illumination. Back after that, which is, again, 50% illumination, because the illumination is going down, all right? After the full moon, it's starting to decrease. That term waning. So between the new moon and full moon, it is waxing. You just think of that as increasing, okay? after the full moon, immediately the illumination starts to decrease. That is waning. And the energies are waning too. They are decreasing in their intensity and their vitality. The mood is becoming more and more reflective as we move from the full moon back down to the lowered illumination of the new moon. And so things become more introspective, but not right at first after the full moon. You do have a few days, and then you hit that first quarter. Really, you have until the first quarter, which is about a week. These 4 major segments last about a week, okay? So you go from 0, illumination that builds back up, and you hit 50% at the first quarter. Then you hit 100% again at the full moon, and it starts going back down. Third quarter is also 50%. Between full moon and third quarter, there's still some activity. So you basically, in terms of being busy in the world, having meetings and things like that, you probably want to schedule that between first and third quarter. Would I schedule it on the full moon? There's pros and cons to the full moon. I mean, that is when the vibrations are the most intense, in some ways the highest, but also that intensity of light does tend to bring up any chaos that needs to be purged. Okay. There's a lot of drama sometimes around the full moon. And of course, this can depend on the planetary aspects and, what's happening with the moon and the sun, the time of year, and so on. But yeah, it's an intensification of energy. It's the height of energy. So emotions are going to be high. And we're often not quite in our most rational mindset around the full moon, but it also can be a really fun time for socializing if, you're not hanging with crazy people. We're all crazy sometimes, I guess, but yeah, if you're hanging with people that, know how to have fun and aren't overly emotionally balanced, that's what I mean. You don't want, or imbalanced, you don't want to be hanging around with people who are emotionally imbalanced around the full moon, because they could be dangerous actually around that time. So just keep that in mind. And let's say if you need to take a meeting with somebody who is emotionally volatile, I would probably do that closer to the new moon, or at least sometime between the third quarter and the new moon, if at all possible. And remember, that's going to vary from month to month, because the moon cycle, the complete moon cycle from new to full back to new again, is 29 days, 28 and a half days, 29 and a half days. So yeah, you have to look up those dates. It doesn't always start on the first of the month, right? Do you get that? It starts on its own time. And there's a lot of places online where you can look up the dates. So I'm not going to go over all that with you. But yeah, this is just giving you a little taste. And like I said, I'm going to teach some courses on this, or a class at least on this particular part. But what I wanted to show you, just one quick thing, and this will probably be some of the tools, like something like this I might use in my classes. I do have some line graphs here real quick, so I hope you watch this in long. So you can just see, I know, hopefully you're imagining about the light and how it's going from, full. Well, actually, it's going from 0 and then increasing and increasing and increasing to full. And then it's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And as that happens, that's what we're feeling in our souls and our moods, regardless of the signs, okay? You have to understand this before you can even understand how the signs play in. So again, it's like, 0, you're in the darkness, you're in the resting, it's like you're in the ground, you're in the earth, in a way, in the tomb, because every new moon, well, it's like a death and a rebirth. And then you're reborn, and the light grows up, and it culminates, and the activity culminates, and then it begins decreasing again, wrapping things up, tying up loose ends, taking care of things. And then we hit that third quarter, and soon after that, the energies start getting very low. It moves very fast. And that's why, you want to wrap up things by the third quarter or within a day or two, okay? And then you want to rest and regroup, because it just goes down, 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 okay? And to demonstrate this, to really take, to present it in a way where you understand it, you can just see it. I hope you can already see it with that analogy. but I do have some line graphs here. The light is not the best, but just so you can see in the month I'm working in here, and actually I started this at the new moon for November 2023, which, you know, is not, this does not include the whole month of that, but that's just the way I did it for this time. So the new moon was on November 13th. And you can see right there that the energy intensity, well, actually, it looks like my titles got mixed around. Oh, well, you know, that happens sometimes. So this is your energy intensity here, and this is the date. And on November 13th, what we have is an energy intensity of 0 for the moon. But then as it goes on, it's climbing. It's climbing. And I'm filming this around the 17th or 18th. And look, on the 18th, well, actually tonight on the 17th, we're going to hit about 25% of illumination. And then you can see up here, right here, for the 20th, that is at 50%. So by the 20th, we will have had, or on the 20th, we will have had the first quarter moon. And so now we're at 50%, and then it's going to continue to climb until we reach right up here to the full moon, which is on approximately November 27th. So that's at 100%. And then it stays up pretty high for a while, you know. Looks like we're going to end the month on the 30th. That's a little bit above 91% of illumination. But you can see how, you know, middle month in November, it went up like that. Now you can contrast this with December. This is next month. I'll put it back over here. And so next month, we're starting pretty high in the illumination. It looks like that's about 85%. But we're decreasing. Okay. And see how fast it decreases here? By December 5th, we're down to 50%. That is the third quarter, I believe. And then we're going to keep going down until we hit the new moon. Actually, you can even see on December 7th, we're down to 30%, a little bit more maybe. And then we're going to bottom out with the visibility and the energy intensity on December 12th. So what if you want to get some stuff done? When are you going to get it done? Okay. Some stuff that takes energy. You're probably going to want to get it done here earlier on. And then as you get closer to, say, December 7th to December 12th, that's going to be your resting and regrouping time. Maybe working quietly in the background, doing easy things. The energy starts to build again. By the 17th of December, it's up to 25% visibility. But that's not very high. It is still building, though. By the 19th of December, we're back up to the first quarter, and that's the 50% visibility. So then you can really get some momentum going, and then it's going to go up, up, up until it culminates on the 24th, Christmas Eve, it looks like, or right around Christmas. Well, actually, it culminates on the 26th, excuse me, 26th, 27th. But yeah, right around Christmas already, it's pretty high. So it's going to be a lot of energy for that. That doesn't always mean things go smoothly, though. I do want to be clear on this, that like around the full moon, things don't always go smoothly. There can be a lot of conflict that comes up, in fact. But there's also a lot of energy, so you can take advantage of that. It depends on what you're looking for, and that's what I'm going to go more into the course and getting a feel for what kind of things people want to plan for. But you can utilize this knowledge, and just in terms of thinking of when you're going to be more likely to have a stronger mood, stronger vitality, that type of thing, that is going to be very affected by, or it can be easily measured by, the illumination of the moon. All right, so enough astro nerding for today. I hope you found this helpful. And I hope that you will utilize the moon cycles for your cosmic planning. And let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you do utilize the cosmic cycles, especially the moon cycles, how you do that. Let me know if you have questions. You can comment here, or you can comment on my Facebook, or however you and I connect. Alrighty. Until next time, I'm Psychic Cynthia, sending you bright and cosmic blessings. Stay cosmic, y'all.